Okay, some weirdness with the camera. I apparently shut it down too soon. The beginning of the 1330 dynastic phase. Something happened already, and I was going to try to remember, but I've got other things that came up. So the German king, Charles, died. I'm giving it Charles II. I mean, I'm not worrying about prior kings. I'm just gonna assume the names are the first of the names here, because again, this is a fantasy world as far as I'm concerned. So that means the crown got inherited, and we swapped out the Prince I for the King of Germany. That got rid of the Principality of Bohemia as any kind of separate united thing. Now the Portuguese king died. Now that doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. This is the heir to the throne. When the king dies, she will become queen, and Portugal will pass to the player's dynasty. Well, Portugal was already part of their dynasty for whatever that is, and whatever that may have meant if they weren't, it's very clear if Portugal is not neutral, this will cause a rebellion. It causes a rebellion no matter what, I guess. Unless it's neutral, in which case it just becomes part of that. I don't know what the hell would happen if some other crown had it. Like, would Portugal become... No, it couldn't become governed. So it would just apparently disassociate from Spain at that point. So that's fine. I'm checking. Did I check everybody's death? I did. So yeah, the entire Spanish line is finished. Who is this? I don't know who the hell this is. Oh, this is the Portuguese king. Yeah, I had that there to remind me to roll for him. And I still have the Italian dynasty, for whatever that's worth, to play out. The only thing that happens with the Italians is two princes come of age. We've got Paul, who's the king's brother, and John, the son of the king. I'm making John the Prince of Bordeaux for whatever that matters. I am incapable of raising any troops, but they at least have their household troops, so they could do something conceivably. The marriage didn't fail, which means, what do? We're going to be going to, we did all survival, we're going to be going to trying to figure out marriages at this point. Phew. I thought this was going to be a more interesting turn for marriages. The only female who's available and of age is still the Italian one. Now, there's a possibility that the Germans so the German-English alliance still exists. That's the problem. Oh, what I was going to say was there's a possibility that the Germans might start funding an Italian, nation again. But that doesn't seem terribly wise to me. So the problem is the Germans are allied with, are in a peace with England for as long as this marriage here lasts. Now she's only 35, so that's probably going to be... No, wrong country. Down here, she's only 30, so that's quite possibly going to be for some time. And I'm not really sure that I'm in favor of this. What I'd like to do is arrange some sort of marriage between... So the Germans might have wanted to do it to be able to put some pressure on the English, because we're not really thrilled with the amount of power the English are getting. They just had the new king, the new German king, right? The new German king just caused another $100 to go into the English coffers, because the English had a lot of princesses married off early. Make sure the Italians, yeah, the Italians do not have their new king yet, do they? I don't, oh, I guess I did give them the 100, yeah. Um, oh, I didn't write his death in, shit. But, whatever. Um, but yeah, that is kind of a key issue. So then the other question is there anybody else who wants to kind of give anything to Italy? I mean, Spain could grant Italy ownership of stuff, but that doesn't really help anyone because the Italians would be easy pickings for any of their neighbors. And so the Spanish kind of surrounding them is actually a good thing. And Italy has to give stuff to Spain, so that works out well. Although actually, in a way, we'd kind of like to see Italy be destroyed because we have to give more to Italy than Italy has to give to us. And what about the Germans trying to reboot stuff? Does any of that make sense? Well, I mean, not really. Not really. I mean, unless we're giving them stuff that they can attack the English from and start taking English stuff away. I don't really see too much advantage to that. And we could always do that without a marriage alliance, which is kind of the thing. Now, the reason that might not be good is that it might be good to get me a wife, you know, and that's kind of the thing for everyone. Everyone might be interested in picking up a wife and might be willing to give Italy something in exchange for that. That's the only real question that remains there. England vaguely is considering that. They came up with the first option. They could give them Piedmont. That doesn't really do me any good at all. Puts Italy here and just makes them kind of a blob, you know, that can't really do anything. And that I can't take Bordeaux. I could give them Tuscany, which is somewhat more interesting in the sense that it puts Italy as kind of a foil to Germany, but the German army is down here. Italy can't defend itself. They no longer have a capital, no matter what. Even if they get their marker back, it's still not going to be a defended capital. So, it's like, okay, I'm giving up my $5 a turn that I get for Tuscany and for a marriage, and Germany's probably going to grab Tuscany from them if I do that. So it doesn't really do me a damn bit of good. And the Italians would actually have to sail there, by the way that I'm playing this, which might not be trivial either. So yeah, I don't know. Not an issue anyway. The English don't have a old enough male available. Henry is married to one of the nobles' daughters in England, and we don't have anyone else down there. Spain, who actually really would be into an Italian marriage because they could hand these off, and that could give them a vector against the English that doesn't really hurt us, and maybe some kind of agreement can come between Italy and Germany under those circumstances, because it's not cutting into the German territory, so there all kind of interesting stuff happens there. But that does open up the possibility. Spain does not have a child either, but the Germans do. And this is the thing. If Spain is willing to give territory to the Italians, and Germany's willing to give peace to the Italians, the Spanish already have peace. That would mean the Germans wouldn't lose any of their yummy territory. The Italians wouldn't be in great shape, but at least they'd have a rebirth possibility. And I think that's a very likely chance. So let me make a roll and see if Spain can negotiate a German-Italian marriage. And they can, I think. I would have liked the daughter. It may mean that Germany is going to give something to someone. You know what it could mean? It could mean that Italy and Spain can agree to get rid of Spain giving $10 and a medal each term in exchange for these territories and arranging the German marriage. That doesn't sound bad. Now, is that allowable within the rules? It's hard to tell. It may be that I can't just void this, but I can agree not to pursue it. Again, I'm making up shit as I go. It's the only way. You can't play this game. It doesn't hold together without making up some shit, I think. The question is, to what degree do you make up shit? And I've been allowing people to write non-dynastic treaties that abandon stuff. They're not binding, though. So essentially, I would be making a non-binding, ignore this agreement, which, however you want to put it. And that would actually be an appealing part. Question is, Italy does not... See, Italy has these resources which are not necessarily easy to transmit, and I don't know if I would mind giving them to Spain. So I think since Spain got the roll on this one, did they? I don't know. I was on an English roll and then looked for anything. Yeah, we'll say Spain got the roll, so they get to negotiate the terms a little better. So yeah, I think they can engineer that marriage between Germany and Italy and give Italy territory. And the key factors here are Germany and Italy become at peace. That's the biggest part. They could agree to be at peace too, but that's not as strong. But the biggie for that peace is Germany gets a wife that they need. And I think that's about it, yeah. And then Spain gets to give up this horrible bargain that they made for their original marriage. And I mean, they were conquered, if they didn't make that marriage. Or it looked like they were. Maybe they weren't. We're seeing the scheme. It's a little more iffy than that, I think. But I felt like I was conquered. To try to pretend there's some history in here or whatever. Essentially, the Italians are accepting the overlordship of the emperor. And this is actually how imperial properties sometimes changed hands. Is there would be these agreements where someone would give up one territory to another family. Like, you'd have these swaps of titles and stuff. It was much, much crazier happenings in order to keep the alignment of this very complex system working. I don't remember shit like this happening in my French and English history. Maybe I'm missing stuff. Maybe I just haven't delved deeply enough into it. But where titles were being passed back and forth and stuff, people were renouncing their bid for the empire and then exchanging one duchy for another. Or something along those lines. And it was just really kind of crazy, some of the deals that were made around the imperial succession in Germany. So I am trying to think if there are any other deals out there. What is the feeling about France? This is kind of the thing. There's no marriage that's possible here. I mean, clearly the move should be against England, but maybe not if England offers something. The problem is anybody offering anything to France, France can get stomped. But there's two things. The English army is present near France, and the Spanish army is not, which is kind of a situation. Yeah, I don't see anything else really being resolved unless there's some trades. No, there's the possibility of the Germans being interested in trading with either Spain or England. So let me take a look if there's anything there that they want to talk about. The French might be willing to give a barrel away, but nobody's willing to give them what they'd want for it, which is a complete set. And they have nothing else. So that's just kind of the treasure in Paris. Problems is, for these deals that I'm making here, and why it's been hard to make them, is I'm making them before the pieces are on the ground. So I look at the English, well, they've just cashed in, and all they have left is food and metal. Now, clearly, that means they probably create a shortage of sheep and definitely of barrels and treasure chests, but, you know, it's not clear what I'd be able to trade and where until the pieces are on the damn board. So the only real deal available would have been between Germany and England, and the anti-English feelings didn't guarantee it wouldn't happen, but I rolled a die, and no deal was come to. Which means we go down to the interface. I tried to look for other deals, and I just don't see them. What Germany needs is... Germany needs a lot. Germany basically produces this treasure chest and a wool here, and they're both far away, and I have a metal. Now, up here, I have everything except food. So Germany needs food. Spain actually has excesses of food and would like metal. Because we don't produce all that much metal. Maybe there's a deal between the two of them. It would only be temporary. Germany doesn't produce metal, but they do have a stack of it up there, and they could make this exchange. Yeah, Spain will give a food, Germany will give a metal. Do we have a treasure chest here? We do. Yeah, we could actually do it with a semi-luxury and a luxury in there too. I kind of lost my place. I think I was at the interface, I did the taxation, etc., because there were no commodities on the board. And that seems to correlate with what I remember, so the hell with that. France and Italy did increase taxation. There are certainly people who can't build the armies they'd like to. Italy is not allowed to build any armies whatsoever. France built their army up because maybe something will happen where we can grab some territory, say on the third round or something. And we lost our mercenary captain due to non-payment. Spain can't build a couple of their units because they have none dead, and they've got a place in revolt. Germany, I counted up their stuff. They have too many armies on the board as it is, so they don't lose any, but they don't gain any for that. So yeah, we're kind of reaching, everybody's at their limit basically of armies or above it. You can see England's out, and I think that's pretty common. I think you will not want to have too few armies on the board. Even in times of peace, not having an army is inviting problems. Although, if you've got marriages protecting you, it might be worth stocking up some cash. And that brings us to an interesting situation. So things like, okay, look, England, there were times when there were medieval era nations that had accumulated ridiculous levels of wealth. And you can look at, well, a little towards the late end of that, when wealth was a little bit more capable of being gotten. Henry VII put finances into tremendously good shape in England. As a key example, not Spain so much. I'm trying to think if there was anywhere else where there was just, this sort of making the model work really well. But the idea that victory in the game is stockpiling wealth, possibly to the exclusion of your land position, is just ludicrous. And it's one of the things that I feel like the stockpiling of wealth, I'll give you this much: wealth doesn't mean that much in this game. Like, the power is wealth or some whatever. That's true. The wealth is power, not so much. You need money, but the fact that England has this big wad of cash means very little unless they want to buy something from someone. They could hand a 100 note to someone and say, "Hey, I want your daughter." But that's a little different from what I'm talking about. So if you look at empires of the Middle Ages, wealth is power to too large a degree in that game. This, I feel, the land restrictions, etc., you can't just buy yourself a victory. And maybe it's a little too weak here, to be honest, but in empires of the Middle Ages, accumulating wealth makes you essentially immune to attack. I mean, and I would see that with my Byzantine player. They would usually have such a good sturdy base that they could fix any economic problems that come their way. And in terms of military problems, they would have such an almost infinite quantity of wealth that you would have to attack them again and again and again. Turn over turn over turn. Everybody would kind of have to do it to cause them real problems. Now, there is one caveat to that, which is if multiple people are attacking you in empires of the Middle Ages, you're not able to defend everywhere. But one or two people probably can't afford to take you down very well. You can do too much damage to them with your defensive checks. But there's nothing along those lines in this. Wealth does not... And the Byzantines are particularly immune to being taken down because they're off in their little corner. And that's how they get so wealthy, and they kind of, it's just such a hard job to take them down. The one thing that serves as a possible counterbalance to that is the Crusades, but the players generally don't really want to do them. I kind of misspoke there, and I feel like I have to correct it, even though I'm here in this other game. While the players might not want to do them, they might be motivated to do so because, look, the Byzantines are winning this game, they're running away with it. If we work together with a crusade, we might be able to take them down. It's going to cause us pain, and especially whoever has to go first in the crusade. But screw it, man, let's do it. That is a very possible choice. The big negative to the Crusades is that the Byzantines don't want them to happen. First of all, they will never call for one like they did in the First Crusade. It's going to be really unlikely that they'll be put in that bad a position because they'll be able to defend their territory sufficiently against any magnate that shows up down there. Although the fact, let me think, do they have 10 card? I think it's just a 5-card magnate that shows up down there as opposed... There are some things, the Mongols, who I think have 10 cards, and they can be a real bitch, even to the Byzantines, because the first 5 cards you can defend against with your money, the next 5 you can't, and that's the problem with the Crusades, is that you might be facing 4, Western European countries hitting you one after the other, and it's like, I just can't hold this, I gotta give them passage or whatever, and that's gonna hurt me. Beyond that, though, usually the Byzantines can stop the crusade from being called. Because of the way the timing works on it, they are very likely to be able to take Jerusalem back. They don't really care whether they own it or not. It's a horrible place for them, but they can't maintain it in good shape. But they've got to make sure a Syrian magnate doesn't hold it, or else there's a possibility of a crusade. So that's kind of my memory there, is that crusades are very, very rare because the Byzantines have so much capital that they can just stop one from hurting them. It's well worth the investment, usually. You're going to get to go first here in 1330. We got another one of these, War with the Swabians, where there's no effect if a particular territory isn't neutral, and the chances of territories remaining neutral is just about nothing. Now, this also only works if you play with both the neutrals and the event cards, but I would assume if you're playing with one of the options, you probably play with both. But again, they're really kind of wasted ones. This will take effect next turn, so if somebody can make Swabia neutral, it can cause a problem for Franconia, which is actually a German territory. But again, I mean, on the first turn of the game, one of these might do something, but there's no persistence of neutral territories in this game. It's too valuable to grab something. And as Germany, if you want your whole army on the board, you had better have taken Swabia. Mechanism which might work to create neutrals, at least, is we've got those rebellions on the board, some of which are being ignored. Brittany, for example, may be a backwater in whatever war between England and Spain exists, which has just been pursued with the English moving into Anjou, because it doesn't really make a damn bit of difference. It's not the shortest way to cover things, and it's just not strategically important. And as such, a certain amount of time, and 5 years might be enough time, it would actually make sense for a rebellion to convert itself into something more impressive, like a state of true neutrality. I may throw some extra rules in, whatever. If another rebellion happens while something's rebel, maybe it will convert to a neutral territory for whatever that matters. I may have screwed up here. When I wrote the treaty between the Germans and the Italians, I didn't deal with the king. The poor Italian king is still stuck in German jail. And oops, As the turn moves forward, as we finish the first movement phase, the event's not going to take place because Swabia is not neutral. Italy getting onto their boats. Spain moved a boat into Apulia, made some exchanges that were agreed to with the Germans, and moved in and took Burgundy. So we've got a little bit of jockeying going on, the Germans moving resources up. However, they want to do that. And head on to the next. I went for a walk today, just before I started the video again. And my back aches now. Now, I've been on a couple of much more strenuous walks in the past few days. At one point, I had a jacket on, I think, but the current walk, the last two I didn't. But I can't think of any real reason for my back to hurt other than that. I mean, I'm wearing the same pair of pants. I went for less of a walk. But there's just sort of this twingy ache kind of in the center. And it's making it hard to play, but more as sort of this vague kind of, I could do something else that wouldn't bother me so much. I want to get through this turn. I'm feeling the fueling of the Oh, let's get through this damn thing. Let's get through another turn. There is, and honestly, I feel that same kind of thing with EU and with Empires of the Middle Ages, where there's interesting stuff that happens, especially with EU, where there's interesting stuff that happens, and I want to get to that stuff. But there's a lot of crap that's not that interesting, and for me, the interesting stuff is maybe the dynastic in this, but I don't know. But just watching that play out is interesting enough that I can kind of cope with and drag myself through the mechanical aspects of the game, moving the armies around and all. Here we're in a situation, the English are going first again, which is clearly to their disadvantage, but a Spanish pretender. So what is the rule here? The youngest child of the Spanish monarch has been persuaded to seek the throne. At the beginning of the next dynastic sequence, the character should be passed, and I was going to randomize to which character rather than to the left, because that player can control the character as if he or she were a member of that dynasty from then on. If the character becomes king or queen, the Spanish player may pass over the pretender's claim as normal or accept the claim and operate as a baron, i.e. the Spanish player stops being a royal dynasty, really. The Spanish player can buy back the pretender by paying 50 crowns to the treasury at the beginning of any dynastic sequence, which clearly would be worthwhile if they were a serious problem. Here's the thing. That makes sense if you're talking about, the youngest male heir to the crown or something like that. The current situation is the King of Spain has one daughter who's 5 years old. I'm going to rule that it's exactly what it says it is, and that she has been basically kidnapped by some coterie. She's not of much importance, and I don't know. If she's worth $50 to Spain to buy back, she's worth it, but it's kind of a weird situation. And, if she ends up as the actual heir to the throne, which is what it looks like right now, well, I mean, if no males show up, basically. The king is fairly young still, and the queen, more importantly, the queen is fairly young. But I was already considering, geez, do I want to, avoid the dynasty? And the answer is no. I want to either obtain a male consort or just not get married, I'm marking that. I wrote controlled by France here. I'm going to put this down there and try to figure out what's up with it. Somehow this 5-year-old daughter is essentially not part of her family anymore, I guess. It's a really fucked up situation, and it makes no sense to me at all. I'll try to resolve it as best I can. A more reasonable situation would be that Brother Alfonso decided to be a real pretender. But no, that's not how the card reads. And again, there's no way you're gonna be able to express all the possible events that could happen in this one really weird event. Might actually be explainable with some hand waving. Like I said, she could be being indoctrinated into pro-French situation. Now, the problem is that she is not. Like, she has sort of become disassociated with the dynasty. And I don't know what the hell that means in terms of, like, any inheritances or whatnot. But we're going to just treat her kind of like she's a foreign agent and not really deal too much with that disassociation. It probably isn't going to matter. She's probably not going to be the heir. And if she is, I'll use the standard avoidance. Or I'll pay the bucks, But she doesn't look that worthwhile. Sort of jockeying going on. The Spanish moved into Burgundy while last turn. Well, the English have moved into Aquitaine and seized it. I had some food here that I should have moved down during the Spanish turn. Sometimes I correct my errors. Sometimes I don't, I guess. But it was just a matter of not being able to understand the control markers, which I see as different from, like, I forgot that, like, there's a king up here that's captured. I don't know. Mainly because releasing the king is worth something, and we got to come to some kind of agreement for that. Italy might be handing over some cash consideration for that, if they wish. But yeah, it's kind of a situation where, you know, fighting fighting a battle, it's a close enough battle. It's a close to even fight. You could measure it up. It might be exactly even, and it's just. I know they're both the same quality. It's just kind of a question of, do you really want to do that? The problem is, there's more Spanish troops available, and they could actually ship into Aquitaine, which might swing the odds. So maybe the English should have attacked, but just grabbing territories, it guarantees you that you're not losing ground, basically. And then whoever goes last on the third operating, third movement round, can grab a bunch of territories at once because they know that they'll get some benefit out of it in terms of taxation, etc. before. It's still a risky move, though, so, like, yeah. The Spanish attack was wildly successful in Aquitaine, and the English king fled. You can see the damages involved. That slight advantage, well, really, it could have gone either way based on die rolls. They were basically essentially the same on die rolls, although they rolled even the first time. Spain got a little bit of an advantage, a couple of pieces the second, and then the English decided to flee the battle and took a hefty hit leaving. But, you know, once the odds look like you might lose your king, it becomes a lot more iffy. And of course the English can just slip away, but what it does mean is that the Spanish can gain some advantages against this weaker English situation much more easily. Start the third movement phase. The French get the first action. There's going to be a trade boon. So trading in is actually bonused by $20 for each set that you trade in. That's a big bonus. Spain and Germany are happy that they made their trade. I don't know if Germany's not going to be able to get their resources up to their capital in time, but you know, but yeah, definitely no reason to hold off on. You know, maybe I can get a semi-luxury, and then, you know, just turn it in now. The money's better for this turn. So the weakening of England means the French can grab some English territory, and in particular, well, what do you want to grab? And that's where it gets complicated, because anything the French grab is going to give them more border with an enemy. So let's say I go grab Lorraine, which is appealing. Well, Germany can chase me out of that. Calais is about the one exception, and it looks like that would actually cause England a lot of harm. It might not be the best place for me to be, but it is not unappealing. Trap somebody who has boats when you don't. The English fled out to sea. Now, it's possible at the beginning of the next turn, there's a storm and they're dead. Because they're stuck out there for 1/3 of 5 years or whatever that works out to be. But slipping home to try to impregnate the wife while they're at sea. Just the way the game works, man. You can put it down to a boating accident instead of like a storm that's coming in there, whatever. Additional chances of dying. The Italians went and took back, and now they have a capital again, but not a real one. But they took back their pieces of Italy that Spain was granting to them. Again, I'm not sure it's legal for Spain to do so, but bending the rules, interpreting the rules as I wish, and bending that interpretation because they're just not solid enough to define the game fully. Spanish finished things up with a big land grab in France. This is still Italian. We have a peace treaty with Italy. And even in Germany, making our way making our way as far as Lorraine. England looks a lot weaker now, right? The Italians are taking some of northern Italy back, presumably. The Spaniards have conquered their position in France. They still have a lot of money. They made their cash off of this. They may not be as big a threat to everyone, though, as they were that engineered this turn. Now it's time to cash in rewards, I guess. So the turn-ins, the English managed to turn in, I think, one set for 70. The Spanish managed to turn in 2 sets, a semi-luxury and a luxury set, totaling up 240, which, you know, is putting them back in the running. And now it's beginning to look like, yeah, maybe we're not as desperately looking to knock the leader out. It's not so clear anymore. And, you know, that's just the nature of games where you have a lot of capacity to throw somebody back on their heels. You can see some pretty wide swings, and we're seeing that here. And just to take another look at the fantasy element of the game, essentially, in that it just does not represent reality in any sort of sense at all. When you're looking at these wild swings, you might say, well, that seems a little odd, but you can find instances where nations did make such big grabs over a period of 5 years, 10 years. The Joan of Arc reconquest is kind of one of the probably best examples. But over a period of 5 years, you could take quite a bit of land. It didn't happen very often, though, you know. And here it's happening, you know, in the course of the 30 years that we've played, we've seen huge swings in terms of land conquest, just back and forth regularly. And I just don't feel like I'm playing anything that matches Europe. Then again, the map doesn't look all that much like Europe. It looks like some weird distortion. We start halfway through the dynastic sequence. I'll get the last couple countries. This is just the birth and death period. The Imral family trying hard for more children because the weird situation with Isolde is a problem. They have another female. They get another son as well under the family, and Alfonso again, ready to, you know, that's important, having a male heir if you've got this weird situation. Now, this weird situation, I think the French are allowed to marry her off, but she is of a different dynasty, so they can marry her into the French dynasty. Like, they control her that much, which is weird. Nothing exciting happening for the French themselves. They've still got, well, actually, they've got a queen who has just inherited the throne, and she's kind of a dangerous situation. If I can't get someone willing to sell me a prince into the dynasty, that's going to be an issue. And then over here, yeah, we're starting to get branching that's annoying here. So Charles, his children, he didn't have any additional children, but his brother Henry had a daughter, and now that's branching off here, and I'm going to have, if need be, I'll have to create a double dip thing, and that's starting to become problematic. As you can see, it starts, the heritage charts become a painful way to handle things very quickly, but I still think it may be better. I just wish I had bigger sheets of paper. A big whiteboard would be useful. And then, yeah, this other line is here. Now let me see what's up. Oh, the wife of that line almost died. If it weren't for her +1 con, she would have been dead. And I'll finish up with the plant heads and the Italians. king has another son, and over here, the Italians are just producing boys like mad. The third son of the current king, and then there's an uncle up here too, so I'm going to have trouble squeezing stuff in. Now, I can slide a female in with very little space, so it's not too terrible, but it is, it is getting crowded, and I'm probably running the sheets the wrong way, but we'll see. I may exchange things, tape things, do all kind of weird shit to make this work out. And so yeah, we're up to, we did the births and survival, we're up to the marriages point. I've marked, there are 3 loose females available. Now one of them kind of doesn't count. One of them I didn't mark, which is the Spanish queen, right? No. Somebody's got a queen. Yeah, I did mark her. The French queen is marked, but that's kind of a weird situation, right? Because that's not really a loose female. That's it is a loose female for matching males to females, but it's a very different situation where the French would probably have to give something up to get a male. The general and getting a male consort is more painful, because not only are you buying something that you want basically to continue your dynasty, but you may be taking a leader away from the other dynasty. There is no way I'm allowed to even I can't give the crown of France away this way, right? I can't marry her off to someone and make that part of the other dynasty. Now, whatever deal is made is going to be potentially a good one. But the Italians are producing boys like mad. They might be willing to sell that off for very little. The French have nothing, though. That's the problem. France has Calais, a few bucks, and that's it. The only thing that they have as an advantage over Italy is they still have their capital, their original capital, unmolested. Italy has lost it and is in a much more fragile situation in a certain way, in that with the way territory can change hands quickly, that big 10-point army that's your capital is a pretty fucking impressive defensive structure in terms of like preventing your dynasty from falling. Kind of interesting. Italy came up first in the dynastic sweepstakes, the die roll, whatever. And while they have a female available and some males, I'm having real trouble figuring out anything I'd want to do. In particular, I need to conquer some English territory, and then maybe I want to make a marriage with the English. I could make a marriage that doesn't involve peace, but I'm not sure how valuable that is, to enshrine maybe some sort of trade. But my trade isn't very good, because the best right now I have I have a sheep production over here. I have a pile of sheep, but I have no real production that I'm certain of keeping. And I'll probably be able to gain a grain. So chances are that I want metal. Oh, Germany has regained Bavaria. I'm not sure how that happened. That may be supposed to still be British. I think that's supposed to still be English. I don't think Germany got a chance to take that. Germany and England are aligned, correct? That's Italy. Oh boy. Yeah, they're aligned. I think that's still an English territory. It's just the English took everything else. So that actually is very appealing if the Italians can get that far. The Germans will probably grab Bavaria though first. So, maybe we can work something out. But my feeling is that there's nothing I really want to enshrine right now. And in particular, I don't necessarily want to keep the alliance with either Germany or Spain. I could see wanting freedom from either of them, although they're both bigger and can threaten me a great deal, because they have appealing stuff near me. And there could be a big alliance against Spain. They may be actually doing better than the English at this point. Italy's not doing too bad either in terms of cash now that they've been rebirthed. I almost feel like I just really don't want to align my Italians. By the way, Black Butte Porter, something of a favorite of mine. Beer has gotten fucking expensive, though. 6-pack of these ran like $10 on sale. Wow, that feels weird. Yeah, I think it was about that. And must not be much of a sale, because at the 7-Eleven it was about that price too. But yeah, it was maybe $1 or $2 more. But I really didn't realize $2 a bottle back when I was in Eugene before was like the cost of a much larger bottle, and where you got real specialty type stuff. And this I don't consider under the real specialty type stuff. This is good shit, but pretty common. And not that much. About half the price of getting a pint in the bar. So it may have gone up to $5 now, but. So yeah, I'm having real trouble finding any kind of marriage for the Italians that they want to make. And that's a weird situation. Usually I'm like, oh yeah, I want this. But they're in this really weird position. So I think I'm going to pass on them, which, unless they have something like that they can offer, it's tremendously valuable. I don't know. 2 roles with the Italians. They couldn't propose anything, but I'm holding them in place. But then I came up with the Plantagenet, the plant heads, and they have no one eligible for marriage right now. Then I got to the Caput, and they had no one who's willing to give them a husband or a wife for any particular reason. They just don't, nobody sees any real value to cutting a deal with them. To be honest, the Germans might. Let's see what the Germans have. Germans have a wife available, and that is it, or a female available. So, and no, I'm just fuzzy, not because of the beer, but because I'm exhausted and in pain, but also the marriages just aren't working out as I'd expect them to, and that's got me disturbed, along with just being drained. So, yeah, the Caput have both a male and a female. They should be able to find something, right? Now, nobody's going to give them a wife or a prince particularly without good reason. But how does Germany feel about being not, very specifically not at war with France? I think they would not mind. So let's look at the Germans. The Germans have one female available that they could pawn off. Is France the place they're most likely to give it to? I don't know. France has nothing really to offer except maybe a one-turn trade. But on the other hand, Germany is currently allied with Italy and England. Yeah, see, that's kind of our problem. If France moves into English territory, we'd like to get it back. So I don't think we want to make a marriage. So yeah, there goes the Caput. if the English were available for the Germans to attack, they might make a deal with France, but it's not a major goal of ours. And that'll put us to the next one. That'll be the Germans. Like I said, I have a female available. We can get rid of. We'll leave it there for now. I have a female available. I am at peace with Italy and England. I don't necessarily want to be at peace with Spain. I might have some trade interest though. What do I produce? I produce wool and treasure. Getting to a problem here. So next turn, Spain has a number of people available. Both a prince and a princess available. Italy also has a prince and a princess available currently, I believe. Nope. Where's the princess? There's got to be a princess. I have one marked there. There we go. There we go. Okay. They may come to some sort of dual marriage, renegotiation of this. So they've already gotten rid of the Spain gives $10 and a medal per turn. But Italy giving a grain every even turn. And currently Italy doesn't have to do that. But there may come to some kind of renegotiation on that. Because Italy's got wool. Which Spain doesn't terribly need. But the Spanish have the semi-luxuries, which they absolutely do not need the quantity they're producing. So they might make some kind of renegotiation, dual marriage, peace, and that would be really appealing. But right now, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to try to do it just with one marriage, because let's see, the Italians would be giving up the female. And yes, they're getting the renegotiation out of it, but they're a little more iffy about the peace thing. On the other hand, they kind of owe Spain something, but I think we're going to hold off on a turn for that. Let me see if there are any additional, any trades or anything that anybody's wanting to make. And Spain's also vaguely interested in a peace deal with the English. Yes, the English are doing quite well, but we've got the advantage now in terms of French territory. So everything's kind of in this weird sort of, hey, who wants to make a peace with who? Do the Spanish have an extra prince available yet? They do. They have this. No, he's only 10 years old. Where was I getting a Spanish female again? Wow, I'm beginning to feel dumb. There isn't one. Yeah, that's the whole deal. There's no one from Spain can marry right now. Okay. Yeah. So I think this is a turn where no dynastic inheritances or no dynastic relationships go. Okay, maybe the beer is kind of giving me a little bit of a buzz. I'm having trouble speaking properly. And I mean, you know, I've drunk less than half a beer. Interesting. Well, I failed to come to anything there. Yeah, it feels like a hard turn. And here's the other thing. Again, the trade items. It's hard to understand what's going to happen with the trade items if you can't move them, if they're not on the board currently. You know, it's very easy for me to look at my big piles in a given nation and say, I tend to produce this and I don't produce that. I could use one of those. But then I start looking around, and because the board is so damn malleable in terms of people grabbing stuff and just taking territory back and forth and everything, it is hard to judge what you're going to need and what you're not going to need. Germany can very clearly say, I am going to need a semi-luxury. But some kind of informal deal with Spain, who they might be attacking, doesn't seem terribly valuable. And I believe we do not have a deal with Spain. And can't really create a real one. So You know, we could create like a one-turn piece or something like that, but that's not to our advantage. The Spanish are not in great shape. Germany is recovering some of its territory and is stuck not being able to attack the English still. So we don't really want to do that. There are no other semi-luxuries kicking around in large quantity. Spain has all of them, basically. France has one they could give up, but we don't have a clear path through, and we don't know what's going to happen and whether or not they'll be able to deliver it. So it's hard to make a deal if they can't deliver it, if they don't have a boat or whatever. Yeah, I could move my German boat over and pick it up, whatever, but that may not work. So yeah, I think we're just going to go to the interface and ignore that trading. I feel like trading is getting short shift by me in this game. Some of that is the way the game represents the pieces. Some of that and the sequence of play and everything and the way they interact. But some of that is also just, you know, maybe sort of it's hard to cut those kind of deals, whereas it's easy to make the warlike deals or the anti-warlike deals. I paid out the taxes and placed people. Let me make sure I don't have a prince somewhere. I have a Prince of Venice. I've been checking the others, but that's $2 extra for us there. It's hard to tell the 3s and 5s and 1s apart. Basically, the coins are either silver or copper, and their value is really difficult to discern because it's just stamped on them and they're all the same size. One thing that I notice is if I don't start cashing in resources at a faster rate, I'm going to run into an additional problem in this game in terms of having to use some kind of multipliers or markers to indicate the over collection of resources. The countermix is not really designed to handle the kind of limits that I'm hitting here. And, you know, I mean, the countries are designed to not be able to cash in resources without trading. And as I said, I have to a certain extent, been neglecting the trade aspects. One other thing that I found, I had an English control marker in what were, I guess, the dead armies from last turn. I may have just stacked them on top of the control marker. That's probably the control marker from here got scooped up or something. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. I wouldn't have moved that. I don't know what happened. But anyway, yeah, I was at, like, all 20 armies were not on the map for England. So I'm like, well, wait a minute, I see one. And yeah, there's just one army left. And that's going to put us to raising forces. And again, everybody's going to pretty much raise whatever they can. The exception to that being navies. You don't want to raise, there's no reason to really raise navies unless you're going to need them. But you're going to need your armies probably. Limit probably affects Germany the most in terms of being a power that looks like it's quite strong, but I can only have 12 armies on the board, which is a real weakness. France obviously still only at 2. I didn't manage to grab any more French territories, so I can't increase. Italy now has an army. Yay! Others, well, the English and the Spanish have most of their homeland in each case. England back 1, so they were able to build everything they could. That's going to throw me to the movement phase. I don't think I'm going to do much more tonight. Well, I might just go through the movement phase, but it's kind of the question. Do I want to go through the movement phase or not? And I don't think I do. Up with the French turn, we get an English pretender. And again, I rolled randomly to see who it's a pretender for. It's a pretender for Italy. And this is really weird. I mean, again, this is an infant, you know. It's not what you'd expect. Again, I don't know. Doesn't help a lot for it to be over there. The other one, the pretender, was the eldest child and has the claim. I am just assuming that, you know, some kind of foreign influence is going to be exerted on this prince and the other one a princess. And if things look bad enough, you'll pay the $50 to get out of it and make them, you know, your heir. French didn't have much to do. They fled back to Champagne. Spain is making kind of an offer to Germany of not explicitly, but they didn't invade any German territory. However, they did take a couple of English locations that, you know, might throw this all into doubt. But we're kind of in this armed camps type situation. The Germans don't have a huge army. Spain doesn't have a huge army because Germany doesn't, because they can't build it. Spain doesn't because they lost some of it to the English. So it's kind of let's see where things fall out next turn, but if you want to attack me, go ahead. What we may end up seeing is somebody makes an attack on that third round when there's no real retaliation before the income stuff. The complete loss of English continental holdings has been completed. The Italians took the rest of North Italy there, and it's looking not nice for their position. But on the other hand, now they don't look like such a threat, and now the real threat looks like it's Spain. Italy can't attack Spain. Germany didn't. They're maneuvering stuff around, grabbed Friesland, which I seem to have unflagged. I don't know how much effect that had. And now we're on the English, who will do what they can to try to get a position back. England's in a great position overall in the game because you need boats to get there. Now the German moved navy here to prevent Friesland from being invaded easily, but I can put more boats, 1, 2, 3 up there, and put a threat on Germany. Actually, Germany and England. I can't do this. Sorry. Germany and England are at peace, which means I can't affect them with those boats, so I don't care. Yeah. So they didn't lose their continental holdings. Was drawn first in the second round. A rebellion card was picked up for that. That is such a mixed bag. So like England, who has a good leader sitting at home, is completely immune, no matter where they are. Likewise, Italy was immune. However, Spain heavily hit. You can see all their territories smashed. Not in home. I think they have a reasonable leader, just not a good one. Yeah, they have a reasonable charisma. Germany has a lousy charisma, was hit a little less heavily. And maybe the heaviest hit of all was France, because they only have 2 provinces and they don't have an army that can suppress the revolt right now. So that's a pretty big hit for them. All right, on to the countries moving. Turning out to be a pretty big deal, this rebellion, with Spain having to cope with the rebellion situation that they're having. They've kind of had to abandon certain territories, so the Germans were able to grab Bavaria. The English have come back into Friesland and are preparing for other movements in the north. There's not much I can do about it as Spain. I can take down notes as to who I want to be pissed at, but honestly, it makes sense to me that the Germans are taking back their territory. They didn't even attack me. The English at least attacked me. I pulled out of Bavaria with kind of the understanding that, yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to hold this shit. It was in revolt anyway. So, silliness. This time we have another pretender controlled by Spain. I'm again randomizing them because I don't like the positional interference of always the player to your left. Now, if you were seated in a particular order based on the game, that would make sense. So, for example, if this was always the seating positioning, it would not be a terrible thing to say, oh, okay, a Spanish pretender would always be controlled, well, no, an Italian pretender would always be controlled by Italy, etc. I can see some arguments for that, and I can actually make some historical arguments, except for the English go the wrong way, right? They don't. No, they do. The French pretender is English controlled. The English pretender, there really weren't any. If there was going to be one, it would probably be French controlled. But these aren't the kind of pretenders that are real. These are like, babies who are influenced, and that's just weird. Okay. Let's finish up this last round and see what England's up to. Backs by some of the countries. The English basically throw the French back into Champagne, and it was probably foolish to move out the way I did. And the Germans conquering much of their own country back. I think I actually want this down here too. It's safe up there, but it makes more sense to have... Actually, I want it down in Swabia. It's safe to have... it strengthens the king's stack, or whatever, another stack that might be loose. And then we polish off. The French can't do anything, basically. Actually, they could have taken something, but they would have been exposing their king to the Spaniards, which probably is something they don't want to do. Actually, that's not even their king. Do they have a king? They have a queen, right? That's the problem. Yeah, they have a queen. Well, that sucks. And then the Italians really had nothing to do. They're hemmed in by Germany and Spain, both of whom they have defensive alliances with. They're just withdrawing their goods. I guess it's time to cash in. We got good trades. 120 total for the Germans, all the way to luxuries with one set, and 160, a couple of semi-luxury packets for the Spaniards. Nothing for England, and nobody else, of course, but yeah, England's got a huge pile of metal and grain, I guess. They've grabbed a sheep location, though. That'll help if they can get it out this turn. But yeah, they made their big money a little earlier. But we're seeing everybody's got a collection, except poor France. That'll push us to the 1340 turn. Well, the dynastic story is Jane Plant had died. Now she's married into the German family, and that gets rid of their peace treaty. That also leaves the king, Charles, as a widower and able to marry. We have a lot of males who are able to marry. Some new ones have come into play. You got a prince there who just showed up, and a prince there who just showed up again. These are just people who've come of age. Had some births as well. Jane is the only death that happened. And who's our queen? Our queen is in the Spanish throne? No. We have a queen, though. The French throne has a queen, but she's actually French, so that's actually not a big deal. So, let's see. I guess the big story here is the number of females that are available. The Italians have 3. Everybody else has 1, except sort of the French. The French is a Spanish princess who's controlled by the French. The French, from what I understand, and my reading of the rules, can basically create a marriage that way. But they're not going to be able to create any kind of alliance or anything. They're just going to kind of marry a Spanish young princess that they got control of. I think they'll end up doing it because they have nothing they can do to avoid that. The one exception is the Spanish could step in and buy her for $50. I don't think she's worth $50. Damn, that's cold, man. No, seriously, I mean, money is incredibly worthwhile in this game, wouldn't be buying her from from France, and losing a daughter to France in that way, whatever you can call it, a bunch of reasons. It's probably not that she's kidnapped or anything. It's probably that there are mechanisms inside the court that are forcing this marriage, but end up, not creating any diplomatic benefit from it whatsoever. But yeah, I think we're going to end up seeing a marriage here. The French will just force that, and the Spanish are not that intent. Now, a possible problem will come up if Alfonso dies, because he is the actual heir as the male. But again, we'll take our chances, we can always pass over an heir in that case. Chances are that's going to be problematic, though, because we'll be in a situation where there will be multiple, because we'll probably marry her off too. There'll be multiple heirs, and it'll be moving up to a different line. And it kind of makes sense, because the female line, if it's older, I mean, it did historically cause problems in some cases, at least where the females had any rights whatsoever. And unless you want to go into the kind of distinguishment that Crusader Kings does, I don't think that's worth doing. So, I mean, the problem with this game, quite honestly, is that it's too much. The dynastic side of things is already a fair amount of effort, etc. Some kind of abstraction needs to take place to, replace this horrible mechanism of writing everything down, right? That's the immediate thought, and there are ways to make that easier. There's no question of that, and maybe these little sheets would help. But again, I'd be through a pack already, basically. There's like two or three packs in the game. I'd be through one pack with one play. Now, they're reusable, I guess. You can erase them, but I also would have trouble capturing some of the information, and I would probably need to duplicate the effort that I'm doing on the dynastic charts. Oh, now it's time to start the marriage game, and it's just getting harder and harder. Sugar is sweet and candy is dandy, but incest is best. Put your sister to the test. Not quite. Worse, I think. I don't know. So, Charles II and Jane Planthead were married. Their child, Henry Lustenberg, is marrying Maud Planthead, who is the daughter of Jane. No, sister of Jane. That's not bad. I thought it was daughter. Yeah, they're just 15 years different. Hey, this is nothing, man. This would be legit. Like, that would just take a little dispensation. No problem there, man. Yeah. No, I thought it was daughter. Well, no, it is bad. Henry is the son, so yeah, Henry's her nephew, and they're married. Yeah, that's not good. That is not good. It would be okay if the old king married her, but that's not what we wanted. And yeah, this game allows that, and you could create consanguinity laws that I probably mispronounced that that could spread things out. But the truth of the matter is, if you did, it would be really hard, because you're limited to 5 families, and like a small tribe, there's going to be way too much intermarriage. The decision was basically I got a roll for England and then a roll for Germany. England failed on their deal. The German deal is the English give them both Lorraine and Friesland. They're going to work together to attack Spain. That's not specified, but that's the understood. I don't want to put a requirement to attack because that doesn't necessarily help. You know, you'd have to spell it out so specifically. Must attack a Spanish territory with at least this many units or something. And then if you can't do that, you just are void from it, but whatever. But the requirements that I've got down here are England gives those 2 back. Germany's going to give a wool and $10 on every even turn to the English. The English are going to give a grain on every even turn. I feel like that's fairly fair. England's giving up a lot of territory, but they need to resolve one of their warlike neighbors. And if they give Germany everything Germany wants, Germany's gotten everything else. They make Germany kind of an equal of Spain in some ways, but we need to capture territory somewhere, and France seems like a good place. There's some wool down there, and we'll see where it goes. I'm using this little mechanism that I used just creating names for empires of the Middle Ages, for Europa Universalis, where, you know, a parent's name might be chosen, but it's kind of an odd even thing. If someone's kind of ineffectual, they don't necessarily get as good a role, you know. And you can go up the grandparents' tree and everything. The problem with it is it has a tendency to create duplications of names in the family, and that I actually probably should name each character so that there isn't somebody else in their same era, because when I write this down, Henry Lustenberg, well, which one? You know, I mean, yes, it's this one. Not this one. Wow, I gotta be careful. These are starting to blur together and get a little too close. Next deal was Spain's hands, and they proposed something where Germany completely screwed England. This is interesting and painful to draw. I created a double marriage. Alfonso, and I screwed up and put it here, I'll leave that space in case he gets married, to Charlotte Lustenberg, it's over here. But also the old king, Charles II, he's what, 45? To the 14-year-old Anna over here, who's in both cases there was good charisma, so there were $30 each way. I'm marrying a king, so that's $100 to Spain, but the deal is a peace between the two as long as either of these two marriages survives. Sorry, wrong one. Spain is going to give a semi-luxury and $10 every even turn. Germany's going to give a luxury every even turn. This is important. They both kind of have enough to generate cash-ins right now. So Spain being able to get the luxuries would be a big deal. And the extra $10 makes up for this big cost, etc. I haven't done anything to link trades yet, which is kind of problematic, because then you could, like, you can engineer losing property so that you don't produce something, but honestly, you're not going to be trading in deals if that happens, so it's probably not a wise idea. That leaves us with only really Italy holding females, and they have 3 of them. And here's the problem. They have their deal with Spain, so Spain doesn't need peace with Italy particularly. They have their deal with Germany, so Germany doesn't need Italy particularly. Italy doesn't particularly need to get rid of their women, but they're really not getting any offers, you know, of anything that they want. Now, I'm able to produce grain. I could conceivably bake in some kind of deal where I'm giving grain. I have a sheep. I don't really want the semi-luxury. What's difficult for me to obtain is metal. The Germans are going to have a fair amount of metal, so maybe there's a deal there. But I think the Germans are out of males. Yeah, the Germans are out of out of everyone. They have no one they can marry off. And so I think Italy's got 3 ripening females that are not helping them terribly right now. Big +2 charisma. That's $60 right there. I mean, that's attractive in and of itself. How does Spain feel about this? So the problem is, of course, Italy might want to go to war with Spain. We're kind of cut off from everybody else. On the other hand, we also are down here where that is our sheep. Yeah, we want metal. And Spain doesn't want to give metal away. Germany is interested in giving metal, but this isn't the time. So I think that's the end of the marriages. Germany and Italy may come to a deal, though. Because Germany has tons of metal. And they do not have much grain. Do they have any? Oh, oh no, this is their grain. Shit. No, Italy's fucked. Italy's the one without anything. Well, that sucks. Yeah, Italy produces a sheep and that's it. So they're not terribly valuable in terms of a trade. I mean, I might be able to get like, yeah. I really don't have much to trade. Okay, so I think that's going to push us over into the interface about things, and I think this is pretty much a counter slip that happened here that led me to think Germany. I am positive, absolutely positive, that Italy captured Lombardy. So yeah, I'm giving them that back as I start calculating out my taxation. Just creating new princes and such, not, or principalities as well. Into a kind of an annoying point where I gotta start adding some more pieces to the game. 5 points of grain, 5 points of metal. I'm gonna have to write that down so I remember, because I thought I would have to go to 3 points of metal. So I thought all the metal was over in Germany. Turns out there's actually the majority of it's in England. So that frees up some more counters, which will help. But yeah, we're beyond the counter mix, and I think it's a natural thing. I think hoarding happens. You'll think that you can maybe get to a better position for trades or whatever. Obviously, if you get close to, a time end of the game, a timed end of the game, you'd be like, oh, okay, I had better arrange trades now to get my cash so that I can score at the end. I imagine that this game has a real weird rush at the very end in a number of different ways, but we're not really that concerned with that because it's so flawed in so many other ways. It's time to build my armies, and I think everybody will build what they can. More or less in an enforced peace situation, so I didn't build my armies. I don't have a whole lot to build, but there's no difficulty in raising your entire army at once, which feels a little... it really doesn't feel that weird, because medieval armies didn't last, right? They're not like big standing armies, so I guess it's fun. And that will put us over into the regular movement phase. We're all set for that in 1340. A little bit of, I don't know, some of the grief, whatever, has been charging me through, just to keep out of mind. I'm beginning to feel that fading, and I'm not sure what that means in terms of finishing, or playing a lot in the near future. England got the next activity. They're trying to fulfill their requirements to Germany by leaving the territories they agreed to leave, and gathering up a large force to take Normandy. You know what I forgot? Their event was a trade boom, so turning in will be good this turn for anybody who can manage it. In the first round, mainly collection of troops and whatnot. Italy goes first in the next round. The event is a rebellion. The storm didn't take place. It's on it, but the rebellion boy did it. Germany got hit really hard. Their king was in Saxony last time. Him not being there definitely hurt, and I have not rolled for the Spaniards yet. Shit. And there's a chance of them going over. So let me roll the Spanish ones. A little too, mainly in their French territories. England got a couple too. Just widespread revolution, but mainly centered in Germany, I'd say. Around most of the players actually dealing with their damn rebellions. English grabbed Brittany. And the third one is, of course, the interesting one. Someone like France, if they go last, they could grab, you know, a resource space or something. Also having some pain in terms of delivering goods. As soon as you start making these delivery treaties, life just gets a lot harder. Again, you know, there's so many different mechanisms in this game, and that's a particularly obnoxious one in certain ways. For whatever reason, I remember, like, again, Borderlands and something else. It's been re-imaged as kind of a post-apocalyptic, something like Gear World or something like that. I don't know, that I have. It has something kind of similar, but it feels like it flows a lot easier. Maybe because you're not dealing with these pacts that, like, you know, you're just busy conquering and trying to arrange things. And you might arrange a trade if an imbalance happens, but it just it doesn't feel obnoxious in the same way. Anyway, I'm gonna break for a little bit because whatever. There's nothing else in life is particularly enjoyable either. I can't convince myself to play the computer game that I was playing. It's gotten a little hard, and I just can't face it. And which is always a problem, but it's more of one now. I could cheat, but and reading sounds unpleasant, so I find myself just fucking watching YouTube and playing stupid Flash games. And that's not particularly satisfying. Anyhow, so I draw for the third round. England gets the action. I get Baron offers a daughter's hand. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. There was a storm. The English lost a ship from that. It might be the first ship lost to a storm. And no, I think Italy lost one. Someone did. And the Baron, the only person who could have gotten it were the Italians, because they're the only ones who had a prince at the right age available. And it's a 50 crown dowry. It ends up going to actually the crown prince, who isn't terrible, but it's kind of cool because it gives me a chance to, you know, start spawning there. And there's no real, so historically there was kind of a, hey, you shouldn't, you know, you wouldn't marry off the crown prince to a noble. You might do it to a lesser royal prince, but in this, actually, it's completely to your advantage. In fact, even more so. The one problem with it is the royal prince is more valuable, because when they become king, that's $100 that their spouse gets. And so you might be able to exact more from it. But from what my reading of the card, it goes. So this is the thing, like, you should be able to refuse it, and if you do, shouldn't you go somewhere else? A baron offers the hand of the daughter to this prince with +1 or +2 strength. She is blah, blah, blah. If there are 2 or more such princes, the prince with the lowest constitution wins her hand. Yeah, well, as the only person with such princes, I actually had 3 that were available, and would have gladly married her off to any of the others. But the way the card is written, it doesn't sound like if you refuse her that she'll go to another noble, which seems like, you know, seems like it would be reasonable. If I can't get the crown prince, well, one of the royal dukes or something makes sense, right? Nah. Again, this game is so weird and creates such unbelievable situations that I'm trying to do things as strictly by the card, by the rules, whatever, as I can possibly interpret them. If this game felt like it was trying to be historical at all, as opposed to in the rules where they kind of, do some hand waving saying, oh yeah, this wouldn't be historical to have naval battles. And I'm like, wait a minute, especially if you're including the Mediterranean. Wait one goddamn minute. But yeah, this is just so clearly a fantasy world that, like, yeah, if I can't have the one prince, I'm not interested in any others who meet the requirements. I'll go marry a baker or something instead. I don't know. Not a whole hell of a lot happens over the course of the turn as a whole. The English captured Anjou. The French moved up to there. Otherwise, it was really just trying to put down the revolts. Turn-ins were big for everyone. England had a double turn-in that came out to 120 because of this thing. And Spain and Germany both got a full boat, like all the way up to luxury turn-in, which worked out to be 130 for each. No one else got one. That will put us to 45, and I'll try to slip this one in because last one was like 45 minutes for 2 turns, so I'm going to go to 3 turns. Things drawn a little badly. There were a couple of births, but as the charts get bigger and bigger. But I screwed up when I put Anna in Royale attached to Charles. I thought this was part of Charles's line. It's not. It's part of Henry's line. So she would have had to break off and be her own. He already had 3 children, so it'd be a lot. Well, it turns out Henry died at this point. That releases Anna. Now, normally a spouse of a royal disappears afterwards, and I think, here I'm kind of cheating, I think the rules just say they go away. I don't feel like looking it up because there's the Eleanor of Aquitaine type situation, although that was actually an annulment rather than... But if you're not a queen mother, I'm not sure you should return. Let me see what the rules actually say, because I'd rather just get rid of her. Although an extra Spanish princess would be useful towards making more alliances. It would also make life difficult. So let me just let me see if there is how it's worded, because I've been always saying it's the queen mother situation, but that may not be the case. Unfortunately, they say both things. If a dead character leaves the surviving spouse who originally came from another dynasty, the character is returned, with one exception. The widow of a king is simply retired from the game. Queen mothers cannot remarry. I thought there was the queen mother exemption. Oh, boy. Yeah. Let's just get rid of her for simplicity's sake. Another screw up. The King of Italy had a daughter out of while he was in prison. That couldn't have happened, or she wouldn't be in the succession or something. Too many years in between. Yeah, I'll pass it off. The son Lorenzo, though, I believe, was correct, because that marriage happened in 1340. The turn after he was captured. Lorenzo would have happened the turn he was captured in the dynastic sequence before he was captured. So that all works. So she just doesn't exist. But yeah, the King of Italy died, which released the Italian-Spanish alliance. I'm still checking other deaths, but I'm working my way through slowly. Got everything right. We have a few loose females. We have the Queen of France, who's problematic. The French don't want to marry her off unless they can get the dynastic exclusion, and there's no real reason anybody would give them that. But she is the queen. If somebody marries into her, they're essentially, they automatically have to give the exclusion. The only exception to that is if it's a potential royal. And there is some possibility of that, right? So somebody might want to give a second son or something like that on the hopes that they can inherit the French dynasty, without completely baking the exclusion in. Because if that son inherits, then it becomes a dual dynasty, a combination of the dynasty. And that might be attractive to both sides, to get a prince who can lead armies or whatever for the French, and to get the shot at inheriting whatever France is, and getting a dynastic conjunction. The Italians still have 3 females available. Let me make sure. Yeah, those are too young. And some of those females are starting to get kind of old, like 25 or so, which, is really not an attractive age in this game. You want to be able to create some spawn, but, and let's see, Luxembourg, the Germans have 1 female loose. That'll be this Odetta here. And everyone else is too young still. I think there's a fair number of princes, but I'm having a hard time coping, and kind of wishing I had just sealed it up and said, hey, let's count the money and see if England or Spain won, whichever one has the bigger pile. Italy's got a pile too, but it's not been growing to the extent. England and Spain are walking away with it right now, but that can all change. The only thing that seems certain is that France doesn't seem to be able to dig their way out of their hole. Somehow Italy, made it out of a worse hole. All they had was Bordeaux. And now they've got some marriages that have cleared up. There are quite a few. Let's see, who went away? I think the Italian-Spanish alliance went away. But the Italian-German still exists. So Italy could move on Spain. That's about the only real shake-up, I guess. I think. God, I don't know. Because the German marriage to Italy, that was a dual marriage where both had to fail for the alliance to disappear. I rolled the the French, the Caput family first, and unfortunately, when I think about, hey, maybe I could marry a second son, but the problem is that you can really engineer this shit by skipping a legitimate heir. Now that can cause you all kind of problems, and I don't know if anybody would do that. But if you're facing problems anyway, where you're pulling a second heir who is to, where the primary heir is female or something like that, wow, you may be asking for it to try to make that kind of marriage, and it feels more and more like the Virgin Queen model is probably the way that we're going to have to go, unless we can, get something where we can make a real deal. And so far, France just doesn't have the capability to make that real deal. English get a pick, and they're gone now. They made a marriage to one of the Italian princesses, the oldest of them, who's got some advantages. She's 10 years older than the crown prince, but because she's marrying a crown prince, to the Italians, she probably is worth $100. To the English, she's worth $60. It does create a dynasty that the English would like, but, they have the main thing is they want to avoid having to pay for this, Italian pretender. Oh, well, um, but, you know, that pay is just $50 that they give to the bank. It doesn't go to Italy. So there's no real edge for the Italians to keeping that. And they're going to contract for a peace. Neither side particularly wants to be at war with the other. And there's actually a situation now where Italy is actually able to go to war with Spain, which is appealing. So unless they can get something from Spain, they're probably going to be prepared to go to war. We'll see. They have room to build up some armies. They didn't do it last turn. They saved money instead because there was no chance of war. But now they can throw down an army and be a secondary threat. England is the primary threat to the Spaniards. There's no question there. I'm having real trouble finding a marriage. The problem is Italy doesn't want to marry into Spain. Spain's my possible exit. I don't really want to marry into Germany. Germany would be willing. Germany has a female they're putting up as an offer. But not really. You know, she's still fairly young, right? She's still 15, which means I don't really need to get rid of her. She's not like decaying all that fast. So, you know, trying to further seal a peace with Italy just doesn't seem that worthwhile. I think Germany is going to focus their attention to try to knock France out of the game. Is there a French king? No, there's a French queen. That's why. While I wait and see what happens. Right now, I am married to both Italy and to England and to Spain. All three of them. So, yeah. I'd rather see what shakes up before I do anything. And that means that female's gone. So then the only real thing that's available is Spain and Italy. And again, Italy doesn't want to do one with Spain. So I think that's the end of the dynastic. Do I need to trade resources? Jesus. Beyond what I'm already scheduled to do. Let me take a peek and see if there's anything that's just aching to happen. Agreed to give a medal in exchange for a grain to Italy. Could have been... See, the problem is Italy doesn't have extra produce. They have resources that they have backed up. But they definitely need metal. And making a one-turn deal while we're at peace might as well. Okay, on to the interphase. And again, armies to the maximum everywhere. Italy paused for one turn, but other than that, navy is not so much, but the English built their additional navy because they're at war with Spain, and Spain has a whole navy, and it means that we can operate. That puts me to the first round of the turn. Now, one of the interesting things for this game, and this happens with a few games, the iconic one for me is Victory Game Civil War. I don't like to end... I like to end at the beginning of a movement phase. The reason is that the dynastic sequence, the taxation and everything, it all sort of flows together. Yes, to some extent so is the movement, because I have to worry about the things that I'm going to be transferring and remembering that. But there's something very discrete about the three separate movement phases that is of a different nature than all this prep work, you know? So I tend to stop here, and this is where I'm going to stop for the night. Another reason for it is I can kind of slip movement phases in, like... You know, when I'm doing something else, in particular, first thing in the morning, I usually do one, and sometimes I take a break during work and push a turn or whatever, a movement phase or whatever out. They're fairly cheap to do. Doing the rest of this is like an hour a turn. But with the movement phase, first of all, the whole thing probably takes about 10 minutes. But even within that whole thing, if I need to, if I feel like I'm running over or something, I can stop even in the midst of a movement phase because I've got the chip pulls. I can't stop in the midst of this shit. I could stop, and I do stop. Births and survival I do, then I do marriages and other deals. Then with the interphase, that's pretty much a unified action. The taxation and the resources because of the governorships means that I have pieces of information that make them kind of work together. The rest of it is basically nothing. Yes, I could raise maintaining forces I do when I do taxation. So the only thing I could do is raising forces, and that takes about a minute for everybody. So again, that becomes sort of a unified thing. This is mostly a unified thing, although I do segment out the marriages. There's a lot of die rolling in the other parts, the births and survival. There's a lot of thinking in the marriages and deals. But then when I get here, it's all just, kind of clean and easy, and it's playing it out and watching what happens based on the things that have been planned. Was there something else I wanted to say? There was, but I don't fucking remember it. Oh yeah, money. Money is hidden in this game, but it's probably trackable. Kind of hard to tell. I don't know. You can have secret treaties and such not, and maybe money passes hands due to that. So maybe it's actually truly hidden. I like to have it vaguely visible so that I have some kind of idea of what people are doing. I can understand it being completely hidden if you're playing it opposed. But yeah, having some idea that, it's pretty much between England and Spain at this point, which means the other players might be able to pick shit off without causing as much disagreement. They might be able to get slightly better deals on things. Not too much, because again, England and Spain are competing with each other. It actually looks like England is in the lead right now. They look like they have a fatter wad, but I might be surprised at the end of the game. Anyway, that's probably it for tonight. Time to find my depression elsewhere. On the first action, the English get the draw. They draw a card, Prince Man's title. Again, this affects everybody. It's the oldest prince in the game who doesn't have a title, once won. That turned out to be Ralph over here, who I made the Duke of Bordeaux because I'm not really that much in need of the extra $2 or whatever, and he doesn't really hurt that, but I'm likely not to be able to hold on to that. He doesn't help it either. Normally I would just make someone like this, give them a home country duchy that isn't worth, that doesn't have a resource on it. But I gave him Bordeaux because I'm probably not going to be able to keep it. So because he's a second son, I don't really want to create another line of holding stuff in territory I'm likely to keep for the rest of the game. Maybe. We'll see. Interesting fight going on here. The English have a worse king, a bigger stack of pieces. I think the Spanish, with their significantly better king, are going to stand up and see if they can wipe out that English force and change the dynamic. Because otherwise, we kind of get into a stalemate type situation. The Spanish probably will still gain territory, but I think I got a shot at beating them right here. Is that risky? Yeah, but I'm getting kind of tired of playing too carefully and conservatively. So the first thing is we take a look, and this is a big one. The English king had a title, so he's up to a 0 strength, but his wife gives him a -1. Whereas Juan here, well, he would be a +4, but he's really just a +2. So he gets 3 bonus dice to roll, which is huge. But anything above a 4 doesn't count on the bonus roll, so I only killed 2 of these English, which sucks. And now it's king versus king fighting, where basically it's just a die roll each, and the Spanish are at a definite disadvantage. If I had gotten a good combo there, I might have caught the English king. One of the things here is if either player... So the Spaniards could have run away with the king, run away with everything. They would have been at an actual disadvantage force-wise overall if they ran, because the English would probably beat up their army. So it's not like it was oh, I could just safely run away with my whole army. No, I'd probably lose the army, but the king would escape. So it seemed like this was a fair shot at like a 50-50 chance rather than being weakened for no good reason. But as it stands, the Spanish might end up losing their king from this. The Spanish got a good roll compared to the English roll, and now it's harder. Man, again, I'm at a disadvantage though here. The question is whether I want to fall back and, attrition things. And I think I do at this point. I think I don't want to be exposing my king to a possible good roll. Because on a 6, only on a 6. Yeah, let's take one more shot. Because we could conceivably beat the English, maybe not all at once, but very significantly defeat them with another good roll combo. So we'll do that again. Blue is the Spaniards. And they get another good mix there. Remember, it's a king, so all the damage actually gets done. And now, that puts us at about a tie, where either side could win, either side could lose. And this is where it really gets iffy. Because if the Spanish stick around, they could lose their whole army, including their king, and be captured. This is where I'm not worth taking the risk. My army has been decreased down to only 2 pieces, 3 with the king. I might as well retreat. I'm not hurting my chances that much. Since I'm the defender, I think I have to choose first, which means the English might as well stick around. They can't be hurt. They can't be captured in this battle anymore. Both sides do their 2 damage. This was not a bad result for the Spaniards, and I think they got away pretty well, to tell you the truth. I can get rid of this. I need another English marker, though, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, that is not what the English wanted out of this, and the Spaniards managed to do more damage to the English than they took themselves, which was pretty impressive given their initial sort of pre-battle die roll, the king versus king roll. Which means, since I got more of my forces up at the front, I'm going to have the edge across the board there. I think Spain and Italy are still at peace. Can't fucking remember a damn thing. Spain and Germany are. No, Spain and Italy are not. That's right. So it may be that I've saved myself from England, but now I'm going to have to deal with the Italians, who also have a fair army, and they have better leadership, if I recall correctly. My king's got a strength of 2. She's got a guile I can't read, but I think it's, I don't know. Yeah. And then these other princes that I have on the board each have strength. So the Italians can actually put together one hell of a force in terms of leadership, because those accumulate. I just had to check. The Germans go next. I had to make sure, because there's a lot of trades that are baked into some of these marriage things. But there's one here too. Germany has to give a medal to Italy in exchange for grain. I gotta remember that one. Yeah, that's something I have to arrange. But other than that, everything's set on even terms for all my marriages right now, on all of them. So that makes life a little easier to cope with. It's only every other turn that I have health. Turn's a bit of a mess. I have to fear the Italians, so I can't move into Italian territory. In fact, I can't defend the Dauphinate even. So I take Bordeaux and grab Anjou because whatever. And I'm attacking the English here. The English flee, of course. This is going to be killed. And we take significant territories. Now let me see, have I... Yeah, this is getting messy because this is not joint, so I'm needing far too many counters there, but that's okay, I guess. And yeah, that's all I can do there. I can't put like a prince with a small stack near Italy. You really can't afford to split your forces up in this game usually, unless you're facing weaker enemies. You have to mass them and keep them together against anything that's in your realm in terms of power. Of course, Italy has to put its big stack forward. This is always one of the things these simple systems, some of them succeed, some of them don't. But one of the things to judge them on is how much does the military side of it, and again, this game wasn't really intended to be very military, but it is violent as hell, so I'm going to say it is, side of things allows players to kind of not lose to a larger force. So here we have a big stack of Italian, big stack of Spaniards. I think the edge is on the Italians, even though the Spanish, I think, have more units total. The Italians have slightly better leadership. But can the Spaniards afford to continue on without facing that Italian army? And that's always an interesting question. Can they reach some sort of advantage from that? What I found with maybe one of the key games that I've discovered of such that doesn't allow for that and should is Imperium Romanum 2. That has a mechanism in it where if you don't make attacks, you're penalized. Which means if your enemy creates a huge stack and controls the coastal road, and you don't have a lot of flexibility in terms of being able to move around inland or whatever, with small stacks and siege cities or anything, you can be in a position where you cannot afford to delay, even though historically people who were in that situation delayed. This game, I feel like there's plenty of room to delay. So for example, the Spaniards can say, you know what, I can give up and let the Italians spread out. If they do that, I can stomp them, you know, all right, with a single large stack or with a couple larger stacks or whatever. So the cannot split up function stays in play, and I could capture territory in my back areas, Brittany and Normandy, and still keep a large strike force in position to threaten the Italians. So there's this sort of, you know, operational type decision making as to how to allocate your forces so that they can give you gains and still provide you with sufficient strength to defend against what you have to deal with. Now, in particular, Normandy's not as safe as it looks because there's a small English force there. So I would have to split my forces and have, you know, a patrol, maybe send my whole force up to Normandy, but I might have to split my forces and, you know, hold the English at bay and have a unit, a stack that can keep the Italians from taking more than one territory per turn, and shit like that. And I find that kind of intriguing types of decision making. A type of decision making that is sadly really, really lacking in the Imperium Romanum game. And there's usually something similar to what we're seeing here in these simpler designs. Where, yeah, there are these kind of choices that you can make. Do I keep my whole stack together or do I not? That aren't trivial. And I find that much more appealing than games that try to be more historically accurate and fail to represent the reality at all. Work, some other things have made me a little busier than I've been in the last couple days and a little less willing to play so far, but I might catch up tonight. Usually I've been getting a couple turns a day in, which I think is pretty sweet. I don't know. Can't have been that many, because I've only put like 3 or 4 videos. I don't know. I've had some rough days, whatever. Anyway, I also went for a nice walk today, which is cool. So starting this second round, the English get the first draw, which is, I don't know, not that important. He can run away as long as he's not completely surrounded, which is actually a possibility. So he could have been in trouble. But I get a rebellion card, and we got kind of widespread revolts happening. Italy seems to be spared, but Germany got hit pretty hard. They have a kind of shitty king. They actually got away light. Spain got hit hard for their king, and England also got hit kind of hard. So there we have that. But what's cool about this card is to reshuffle the deck. Again, I don't remember playing with the events. I don't think we did. If we did, we didn't play with all of the other optional rules that would have made the events possible, and like they would have been kind of a pain in the ass. Governing rules and stuff like that. But reshuffle the decks are cool, because one of the things I've been worried about is, oh shit, there's like one pretender for each. This causes me a problem though. I don't think I can leave these out. I think I have to shuffle them into the deck. And so I'm going to have to use something else to mark my pretenders. I'll just write up some pieces of paper. But I've got it on these, but that's not enough for me to really feel comfortable about them. Well, for now at least, I'm going to just use player pawns. I've got extra princes for everybody. I'm just using them to mark as that. This one's a little different because it's a female who's married into the French family anyway. But if she gets released, she's still a pretender, so it's kind of interesting. If I end up needing those princes, I'll figure something else out, but that seems reasonable for now. What else? I don't know. Gotten themselves into this weird sort of dance with the Italians. They grabbed the Dauphinate, and they went and grabbed English territories that were abandoned for, just because the English are probably going to be, they don't have much of an army, so coming back on the continent's kind of dangerous for them. But I was unable to take Calais, and that's the real problem, because the English can just fling themselves back in. But putting revolts down is harder than capturing enemy territory, so that's an issue. I didn't want to challenge the Italian king, which is probably a mistake, because there is kind of an advantage to being the attacker, kinda. Not really on the die rolls or anything, just in the sense that you gain something if you win. It's a very minor thing, and I don't actually see it as an advantage. But I saw no real advantage. Like, I was coming from here, so this is as far as I could get anyway. The thing with these plastic pieces and the big stacks of slippery counters, I picked up a big stack of slippery counters with a plastic piece in my hand and squirt all over the place. I think I've grabbed them all, but now I'm going to have to... No, didn't get this one. Now I'm going to have to count my counters and make sure that I found them all, because one might be on the floor somewhere, and it's not like I keep things in a sane fashion. And the Germans had so much of a problem with revolt that they kind of pulled back rather than the kind of expensive possible conquest of France. How much value is there to that? Yeah, it's hard to tell. But I would have been the guy with the big army, and the only thing I could conquer and add to was France. I'm at peace with everyone else. But it just didn't seem like worth wasting, both wasting my army and the situation there. That put it to France, and France could have run out and grabbed Flanders, and, well, then the Germans would stomp them. Or they could grab Calais, or Burgundy or something, and Germany would stomp them. I could grab a couple of spaces, and Germany would stomp one of them. So the safest move seemed to be to go whack the Spanish piece, and with leadership, etc., we ended up taking Normandy. The reason being, Spain and Italy are busy. England probably has better things to do than try to create a French empire again, when everything's in revolt and I don't have a big army, and I'd be at risk of, losing a leader to one of these other armies possibly. On the other hand, the Germans can't reach that space. They get a better shot at the capital, though, if they want it, which they probably do. And that will push us to the third round. Get the first draw again, and their card is War with the Scots. Doesn't do much. The Scots are seeking independence in the next event phase. The English player rolls a die. If the result is the number of army counters he or she must remove from the map to the the year track, as if they had been killed in combat. The English player can subtract one from the die roll for each 5 crowns, which seems like a pretty good deal because it's going to cost 5 to replace each army. Crowns are paid before the die roll is made, so I probably only want to make 1, because on a 0 nothing happens. I rolled the storms, none happened. There's a Spanish ship that got ousted. That's the only one that would have been at risk. Take care of some of their rebels. The Spaniards dance around the Italians and clean up a rebellion. I've got so many rebellions. It's a hard call. The real question is, did I want to fight the Italian army or not? And I feel like I'm at a disadvantage, but now the Italians can choose not to fight me and can conquer all of France. Germany grabs champagne and the semi-luxury there and clears up some problem. And now the French have a new capital and will never again have that fortified advantage, and they're in deep shit now. To the end of the turn, the Italians a little bit exposed, no question, but they grabbed a lot of territory. I think that's more valuable in general. The Spanish can't afford to take that back. Italy might get the jump on them and be able to gather their army. And that exposure isn't that bad. I've got a lot of good leaders, so I might be able to wipe out the Spanish army just on leadership alone. But there's a lot of production in there, and we'll see how that goes. I guess it's time for me to check the cash-ins. Italy just put a basic set in, and why didn't the Germans move there? 1, 2, 3, up. Probably should be further than that. Oh, they can move 4. Yeah, do I have another set? No. Okay. So Germany and Italy both turned in a basic set. Spain managed to turn in 2 semi-luxury sets for 160, which they're hoarding up cash still. It's really England and Spain still. Other people are making money. France is screwed, unless something wonderful happens for them. Yeah, Italy has recovered greatly, given everything. That'll be it for the turn, and that pushes us down to the even year. I had these down here. I think there should only be one area filled at any given time. That's not true. That's not true at all. But I assume I had them cleared. And we'll load this one up.